Hello and welcome to the second part of the 9th video, where we cover all about radio buttons and checkboxes. So let's start first with the radio button. Radio buttons are inputs with preset values from which we can only select one and only one must be selected. An example is a person's gender, where you can be one of the specified genders listed in front of you. Now let's see how we can do that. Make sure to have your code editor open, and beside it you have your browser. And then inside your code editor, make sure you have the form tags open and closed. And between the form tags, we'll create our radio input. So of course, we're going to create an input tag, close it, create a type of radio, and then create a value of male. Control S, refresh, and there you go. We have created our first radio button. But it has no meaning and we do not understand what is this for. So let's create a label for it. On top of the input, I'm going to create a label tag. Close it. Male. Control S. And now our radio button has a meaning. Let's copy this and paste it again with a value of female. Create a breaking tag. Control V. Change male into female. Control S, refresh, and now we have two radio buttons. However, there is one attribute that is missing. Can you guess it? As I mentioned before, the name attribute is a very important attribute when you're creating inputs for a form. So let's create our name attribute. Our name attribute would be called gender. Let's have it in both. Refresh. Now we can select one of those options. You may ask, how can we have two inputs with the same name? Well, these two inputs would represent an option with two different values. So they would have a name. And in fact, by having both of them with the same name, we are telling the browser that these both are in the same group. So the browser will only allow us to select one of them. However, if we change this name into something else, let's say example, Control S, go back, refresh your page, the browser will now see both buttons as two separate groups. And this will allow us to choose both. This is a wrong way to use a radio button, and this is not what radio buttons are meant for. So let's say you're presented with a different scenario where you may want to choose multiple options. Let's say these are colors, red, green, blue. For such a scenario, we will use a checkbox. So now back to your code editor. We're going to delete those two inputs and our breaking tag. And we're going to change our type to checkbox. Our name to color. Red, and our value to red. Let's change the label to red. Control S, copy these, create a breaking tag, and paste it two more times. Change red to green, and change red here to blue. Control S, refresh. Now we have our checkboxes. So checkboxes allows us to select one of the options, 2, 3, or none of the options. However, checkbox and radio button are very good when you have few options, like gender or colors. But what would you do when you have a list of a country where a person can only select one country which will represent his nationality? I will show you how to tackle this issue in the next video, where I will teach you how to create a drop-down list.